over on ITV and ITVX, we have a one-off documentary called Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy. And here's a clip.
Friends was such a global phenomenon.
He really touched people's lives.
I genuinely don't think a lot of people realise what fame really is. All of your worst instincts are going to be catered to.
His life was overtaken by addictions. Hollywood is full of enablers.
They'd really preyed on somebody vulnerable.
Yes, well, you'd have to be living under a rock, wouldn't you, to not remember those headlines when Matthew Perry was, of course, found dead. He drowned, and the primary issue was ketamine that was found. And this is a documentary which is kind of different to other documentaries because it doesn't get as close to him as perhaps, some documentaries might and perhaps might in the future. And in fact, Jennifer Aniston's recently done a cover of a magazine where she's talked about how he's at peace now and that he was, fighting his demons for so long. And so that kind of stuff, when you hear from people that are really close to them and that's really heartfelt, means loads. This has got sort of celebrity journalists. It draws on kind of all corners of his life, I suppose, to look at how he ended up here at this point. And the truth is, it's fame. We talk about this all the time, don't we? Fame and what it does to people. And for me, having the wrong people around you. I see this time and again. Having the right people around you, protecting you, is so important. And there's lots of interviews, as I say, with various different people in the know. And the key messaging here is about the enablers, the people that are allowing him or were allowing him to do what he was needing to do. And we're talking about doctors here. There were arrests made. And it's just a loss of a life that wasn't necessary when actually they didn't need to be doing. Money was involved and they were doing it. They shouldn't have been doing it. It's morally corrupt, arguably, to be doing this kind of thing. And it was incredibly tragic. And you also see the flashbacks to the kind of the headlines and what was being said at that time, and the money being made out of these drugs, and he's just one of many people. And I guess it kind of shines a spotlight on that, and you'll want to watch it because even my kids, generations on, love Friends. They love Friends. That's the point. And he was the funny one, right? He was absolutely brilliant. And it was just incredibly sad. And I wish there could be something good that comes from this in terms of stopping this enabling behaviour by people around them. Suddenly when you become rich and famous, people start to say yes. People start to be badly behaved. There's no need for it. You are still a human being with a life, and he's left lots of people behind that absolutely adored him. But as I say, reading Jennifer Aniston's interview recently, where she just said, do you know what, he's at peace now. Essentially, this is, in a way, he was suffering for so long, and he was. And this kind of tells the story of that. So I thought it was really quite interesting. What did you think, Ian?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, found it interesting. I read his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. And the big terrible thing, of course, is the addiction. It's a really good read. I mean, strangely, it's actually quite funny, although it's tackling a lot of it is really personal, difficult stuff about his addiction. And the real tragedy is, apart from everything else, I think he had like a jet ski accident or something, and he took opioids and became addicted to them. And I always used to think, why do these people get addicted to opioids, especially rock stars? It seems to happen to a lot. And then I took a tramadol when I had a really bad back, and I was like, oh, that's why, because it just makes everything feel great. So yeah, I get it. And he ends up just getting far too much ketamine off these dodgy doctors who are like injecting him in the back of a car in a car park. It's terrible, really. And what is such a shame is, he wrote that book and he kind of was writing about how he overcame the addiction. And there were kind of several false dawns. So like you see him appearing on one of the late night chat shows, the first time he's kind of got clean and looking really good, and it seems like, oh, this is it. But as they say, someone says in the film, all the time that you're clean and sober, your addiction is like doing one-arm press-ups in the background, just waiting. So yeah, it is a terrible tragedy. I mean, I'd quite like to have heard more of his life story in it. It very much is concentrating on the death, naturally, and the circumstances of the death, and the people who are being prosecuted for their role in it. Some of them have already sort of put in a guilty plea for what they did. It's just a terrible, terrible shame, because he's such a charismatic guy, and also he really wanted to help people who were going through similar things. You got people like Hank Azaria being interviewed, talking about how much Matthew helped him, and you've got the fans, of course. He was my favourite, and I'm sure he was many people's favourite in Friends. He just absolutely made that character Chandler Bing. He was fabulous. But you can see at one point during the filming of Friends, and I mean, they were getting paid phenomenal sums, weren't they? He suddenly looks very different. His weight is very different, and something's going on. You can tell. So it's a really good watch. But you just come away with that feeling of it's such a waste. But hopefully, the fact that these people are being prosecuted, whereas often in the past it was like, oh, that's just that's the fault of the celebrity. It's a celebrity excess. These people who are acting illegally are being brought to book, and hopefully that will prevent future tragedies.